Hello and welcome everyone to our live conversation. So I am joined here with Massimo and Camilla. Hello, welcome everyone. I can't actually see if anyone's joining us yet, so I'm going to have a look in a second on my phone. So I am here. We are here this evening to talk live and have a conversation really about how you don't have to be hard during sex. This is a really important conversation. Often I am working with men and there is just so much pressure to be hard because of what we've seen in the movies, because of what we've seen in some pornography, this constant message that men and women and all of us are bombarded with, that you've got to be hard, that you've got to stay hard, and that you've got to perform during sex. So I invited Camilla and Massimo to have this conversation because it's something that me and colleagues are always talking about privately in our Facebook group and with people that we're working with, but it's not so much something that I am seeing being talked about publicly. And so, I can talk about it more, but I'll introduce Camilla and Massimo first. So Camilla, actually, I studied with Camilla 3 years ago, and Camilla and we spoke at an event in London a couple of years ago. And Camilla did this amazing presentation on the joy of soft cocks, soft penises. So I couldn't think of anyone better to have than Camilla joining live for this conversation. And with Massimo, I recently came across Massimo's work, love his work. I've been following him on Instagram and Facebook. And then I came across him in a talk with a podcast with someone else and really appreciated how, I said this before, Massimo, with the other thing we did, I really appreciated how Massimo was supporting couples to talk about sex, how to bring it up and the nuances in those conversations. So welcome to Camilla and welcome Massimo and welcome to everyone joining us live.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So let me just grab my notes. So where we can begin with this conversation, where I'd love to begin, and what my intention for this live is to really speak about this topic, because there is so much shame surrounding this for men. And it literally, I was thinking today how it impacts men's lives, the men that I speak with, and it stops them from dating. It stops them from going on online dating apps. It stops them from taking the conversation forward to an actual date when they are holding this shame that they have something, they believe, men believe they have something wrong with them, that their bodies is, sorry, I have to have a sip of water, that their bodies aren't performing for them. They've got this relationship with their bodies where they feel it's not performing for them. And it, not even just with dating, in relationships, they get to this point where they feel like their penis, their body is letting them down, and then sex basically it gets off the table, and it becomes this whole big mountain, understandably. They can't talk about it with their partners and they feel embarrassed, they feel ashamed. It's really hard to communicate about. So in the end, the partner ends up feeling like, is there something wrong with me? Do you not fancy me anymore? I really want to connect with you. I really want to touch you. I really want to be intimate with you. And so as you can see, it kind of cascades and it goes this kind of downward spiral. So my intention really is to, through this conversation with myself, Massimo and Camilla, to kind of reduce the shame and to have some fun and light and playfulness around this topic. Just like sex, if we take it too seriously, we want to bring in some play. and then by the end of this live, hopefully share a few ways and ideas, maybe some kind of tips of how, if this is something that you as a man is going through, ways that we can support you in this live, or if you're a woman or a person supporting your male partner. So thank you for listening to my intro, Camilla and Massimo, and it's over to all of us really to start to begin to debunk the myths around sex being all about the penis needing to be hard, and supporting people to realize that, yeah, you don't have to be hard during sex. So Camilla, I see you nodding.
Well, I think the first thing, from my perspective, the most important thing to say, Massimo, I'm going to guess you agree with this, is that at some point in a man's life, every man is going to face a soft cock when he didn't expect it or doesn't want it. Like it's going to happen. And it's going to happen to us women too. And how we respond. So my first experience of it, I was so shocked. I was in a new relationship, everything was hot and everything was steamy, and we counted down the days before we could see each other again. He was 100 miles away and I had to leave the kids to see him, and it was a really big deal, and our sex was very scheduled. It was big build up, and then suddenly one night he has a soft cock, and I immediately went into free fall. I immediately went into, oh my God, what have I done wrong? What's wrong with me? Should I not have had that croissant at breakfast? Should I not have done this? It all went into this spiral of me thinking I had done something wrong, that the fault was with me. And I think that comes into the space really quickly, that women make it our fault. Something's wrong with us, when it's almost certainly not. So then in my spinning out, I started spinning him out, and that was going to spoil our entire weekend. And we only have one weekend every two. And I just had this, I don't know where it came from, but this beautiful, literally a beautiful download of someone just saying to me, hold his cock and love it. Just stop the spinning, just hold it and love it. Just speak to him words of love. It doesn't matter where it's come from or why it's happened or what's going on. All he needs right now is love. His cock needs love, he needs love, you need love. Let's bring love back into the room. Let's stop spinning out in fear and just bring love. And that's just been what I've taught so many clients and talked to so many people about. It's just bringing love back. And I don't have to be romantic love. It's just kindness and compassion and presence.
What I really love about that is that you managed to reharmonize that sexualized experience in and actually pull it away from where it was going towards. And I think a lot of the time when people are sort of stuck in that is that, all this anxiety starts coming up, which of course compounds that feeling of this is just never going to get hard. And then you're also harmonizing against her anxiety, and then it's just as you said, a free fall. So it's in terms of that capacity to do that, when that sort of thought came in of, I have to love this. When you're working with your clients, how do you teach that with them?
So I modeled it. So until COVID, I worked with my clients in person. So I worked with a couple in the room together, and they would, and if soft cock, if ED showed up in their relationship, I would just say, well, this, do this, and talk through being in that space and helping him. Often people get caught in their own silos of pain. So the man has his pain of, my cock is not performing, I'm a failure, everything, she's going to think really badly of me, she's going to laugh at me. Huge fear. I think that's one of the biggest fear for men, is that they're going to get laughed at. So he's in that kind of silo of pain. And I call it a silo because it's closed off and it's kind of impenetrable and he's not communicating it. She's in her silo of pain of, he doesn't fancy me, he doesn't desire me, he's thinking about someone else, I'm not as beautiful as the porn star, whatever she's spiraling out to. And it's saying to them both, and this is where I understand this is your expertise, you need to bring some language in, you need to start talking about it. Like turning away from each other is the very worst thing to do. And saying to him, if you could say a word of love or desire to your female partner in this moment, so she knows it's not a reaction to her, she knows she's still, like it seems to me women measure their desirability based on the strength of a man's erection. And there are so many other ways for men to express their desire for women than just the erection.
Or it's against their ability to actually hold that insecure space.
Yes.
It's that oscillation between them both, 100%. I guess for me, it's always the dilemma of going into a new relationship. So it's like that first meeting. It's a different kind of anxiety that sort of brings to the table versus being in a relationship for a long time.
Yes.
And I think those two sort of dynamics both have a lot of crossovers and similarities. Because I guess, you know, if I look at my relationship, of course, there's moments where you're not hard. It's just, as you said right in the beginning, it's an inevitability that's going to happen. And I think that because most of the time men are quite unconscious as to their own rhythm and cycle, we don't really recognize how stressed we are or are we actually in the mood. And you know, it's like when I joke around with guys and say to them, you need to actually really be thinking with your penis. You really need to think with it, because if you're not giving it enough credits, it's going to basically not work, and then it's going to rear its head and go, hey, you're not listening to me, and it's going to force you to listen. And I just think that it's so important to sort of know where you stand on your own rhythmic cycle before you actually get into any of these relationships.
And have a lot of space in sex with a partner, whether it's an established one or a new one, when no one's hot or hard. Like, make room for there to be lots of sexual play and interaction and intimacy and fun and connection without anyone needing to have an erection. And I mean the female erection too. You know, like, we don't have to be hot and horny and be turned on to be interacting.
As a rule of thumb, I always say it needs to be at least 48 hours before that you're thinking about having the sexual experience.
Right.
So you, as you say, it's like you're kind of warming up the cauldron there, and then when it gets 2 days in, you're 100% prepared and ready for it.
So I'm just listening. I'm loving what you're both saying, and I'm just thinking, people listening to this, the concept of you don't need to be hard. I could literally hear the voice of people saying, well, then what are we doing here? How are we going to have sex if my penis isn't hard?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly, Camilla. Glad you brought that up. But I'm literally, it brings me back to why I wanted to do this, because we gotta keep coming back to debunking this myth, which has been brainwashed since young boys started masturbating from, you know, some pornography from the movies. A typical movie scene is guy, hot man, you know, this is very heteronormative as well, hot woman, he's like four, and then they kiss, and then she's you know, ready for it, you know, highly unlikely, long time for women, and then the man's ready for it and he's hard, ready to go. 5 minutes later, she's having a wonderful orgasm. They orgasmed at the same time.
Yeah.
It was all wonderful when it worked perfectly. And
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes.
All in 5 minutes.
All in 5 minutes. Not to say that that isn't possible. Absolutely, people can have amazing, beautiful quickies. So that's what we have been, you know, all of us have been constantly messaged. So when people are listening to this and they're hearing all you, myself, Camilla, Massimo saying, you don't have to be hard, I imagine the brain is going, it's really kind of not matching up with that image of what sex looks like, and also how sex should finish, how that as Camilla so wonderfully demonstrated, the other parts of the sexual experience,
I mean,
is all in aid of getting to the final, la pièce de la résistance. It's all, if I said that right, it's all in aid of getting to the penetration part, which actually what I really want to get across, and I know you do, Camilla and Massimo, is that actually doesn't have to happen every time. To have wonderful, amazing, connected, intimate, pleasurable, orgasmic sexual experiences and encounters.
We've got entire bodies.
Yeah.
Like, our entire bodies are very sexual. and very sensual. It's just, but I think it's just this reproductive model of sex which has kind of lasted with us for thousands of years, which if you're not making babies, there's no point having sex. It's all about penetration. And it's actually,
yes,
I have 3 babies, that's enough. And I wanted sex a lot more than 3 times in my life. I want to carry on having sex even though I'm going into the menopause years. It's like, it's clearly not just about making babies. It's clearly about the pleasure and the connection and just the frigging joy of it.
Yes, and then the other thing that I wanted to kind of pick up on was, I just love that you shared that story, Camilla. Thank you so much, because it's when we hear personal stories that people can really connect. And I just thought of all the people I speak to, the men, the women, and that hasn't been their first experience when their penis, their cock has gone soft.
No.
It's actually, the experience has been, well, you know, what we're going to be able to do now, or, you know, the woman feeling offended, or the man feeling deeply ashamed.
I think it's usually on the back of the man's response first. That's my experience. It's like, you know, if you can hold it together and really contain that space. And I mean, this is coming also from a point of view that you recognize what your body does in these kind of situations. What's the lag time, or, you know, that familiarity that you're I guess getting closer to in your own way of relating to your penis or your wand, gives you that added sort of ability to go, actually, hold on a second, let's sort of remove ourselves from the heat on this in this situation. Let's sort of steer it in a different direction. Let me make it about you. I mean, for me personally, there's nothing greater than making it about her. That's more of a test than my ability to penetrate and take you to the place of orgasm. Is really, can you just enjoy it without having that?
Absolutely.
So for all the people listening, I'm just thinking, what could we say to support men to get into that mind state, that kind of frame of mind where they don't stress about it? Because as we know, like, the stress response actually is blocking and can be a real turn off, a real dampener of physical arousal. And the first thing that comes to me is the statement in your mind for men, which is, this happens to all men. It happens, to all men. And my penis is absolutely fine. Hard, soft. It's a natural flow. It's very normal. It's very natural. And for men to kind of repeat that in their mind. But I'm just wondering, Camilla and Massimo, if there's anything else you'd say that would be supportive for men to get into that frame of mind, that I've got this, we can continue exploring pleasure in this experience.
I think it always comes back to acceptance and self-love, and I guess forgiveness. It's just having that moment to just connect with that part of your body and just say, okay, it is what it is, and I'm okay with it, and I still love you, and I still love me. And it's returning to that place of self-love and self-acceptance, and I guess just having a sense. I don't think it's a statement, it's a knowing that there's a sense in yourself that you are more than an erection. Like, she's not with you because of your erection. She's with you because you make her laugh, because you make her smile, because you make her heart flutter. That's not your erection. That's your voice. That's your mind. That's the way you pay attention to her, like the way you stroke her body. And
what's lovely about this, sorry to cut you short, Camilla, is that it also feeds into penis size as well, right? You know, all of the things that you just said there, if there's that sort of hesitance or that sort of, you know, internalized dialogue and script that the guy's carrying and saying, oh, you know, my penis is not big enough, let alone I can't get it out. Everything that you rightfully said there, you've aroused it to such a point that it doesn't really matter at that particular point when you're engaged and actually together.
And the truth of it is that men have been told this enough by women, that we're not really that bothered about your penis size. What we care is what you make our bodies feel like. So if in the moment, so penis size is not going to be something that happens in the moment, like, you know, the size of your penis, right? But and what I would observe as a lover of men is that men who aren't super swaggery about their penis size tend to be really phenomenal lovers, actually. Sorry, guys with big dicks, but actually the guys with smaller ones tend to be, they're just very skilled. They've got a really broad skill set.
I think the word that I would use there is a conscientiousness of
Yes.
reinforcing all the other areas that they have in
Yes.
their life that they can bring to the
Yeah.
table. I mean, and in answering your question, Emma, I think, you know, the first thing when it comes to sort of erectile dysfunction, if you want to call it that, I would always rule out, is there a medical concern behind it all?
Yes.
That's my first go-to. Look, if you feel that this is something medical based, go see a urologist, go get all the tests done, rule that out. Because then it's a case of, then we can start working on the psychology behind that. If there is something medical, you treat it. And
yeah,
I remember working with one guy where I know it's, in a way, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but he had so much anxiety that I said to him, go to the doctor, go get some beta blockers, just to sort of understand where you carry the anxiety. Do you carry the anxiety in the body, or do you carry the anxiety in the head? And once he was sort of able to negotiate that, he stopped the beta blockers, and then he started creating a different kind of relationship with himself, because he was able to sort of detach from the anxiety that he was feeling. So I think there's a lot of components that come in when we are thinking about a penis, and like you say, rightfully so, is the script that they carry is soul destroying, that kind of script.
It really is. It really is. It really impacts men. Camilla.
Well, I was just going to say, and this is where I think women really bear responsibility, because so much of the negative script that's carried by men has been implanted by women in their early experiences. And I find that really hurtful, because I know there are women there are lots of pains that men cause women in sex. And there is a very deep pain that women cause men. That there are women who, from their own place of insecurity, will laugh or make a comment or be exasperated. And the stories I've heard, I find really shocking. So I'd like any women out there who are relating with men to just be very conscious of how you respond to your man in this moment. It's like, this is your opportunity to step up and really love somebody and be conscious and compassionate, as opposed to laugh or snap or whatever else.
And also to be aware of what men are carrying, you know, the scripts that they are carrying, the pressure, the performance pressure. I think just take it as a given that men are struggling with performance pressure. Full stop. That any man you come across, he's struggling with this burden that's been socially conditioned right from the word dot, that he is there to do, to give, to perform, and that he better do a good job at it. And when you said earlier, Camilla, around coming back to love, like the man says to the woman, I love you, and coming back to that connection, I actually thought what would be lovely to add to that is to say, for the man to say to his penis as well, I love you.
Yes.
So it's that internal, look, we've got this, I love you.
Yeah.
You're doing great, you're doing fine. We're doing fine, team man, team penis.
Yeah.
And then saying to the woman, I love you, I think you're gorgeous, I've still, you know, there's loads of desire in my body right now. And not even apologizing. Like, men don't need to go into, sorry, I don't know what.
Just like we don't need to apologize when we're dry, right? And rush. Because I speak up a lot about how I don't want people to rush to use lube. I want women to be able to get to the place of arousal without shoving lube in. And this whole kind of fixation on his hardness and her wetness and everybody racing towards this act of penetration, when actually if we just slow down and just allow our bodies to be where they're at and to connect from that place, I guess it's vulnerability. I'm listening to Brené Brown again this week, and it's all comes back to vulnerability and our preparedness to be in a space where we're vulnerable. Yeah. And I guess that's what the non-erection is.
Yeah,
vulnerable.
In a way, but I also think that it's such an important concept to sort of differentiate between how, and I'm generalizing a bit, how women deal with vulnerability in comparison to how men deal with vulnerability. Because, you know, I guess when in my mind, when I have my partner vulnerable in front of me, I know what to do to hold that space and sort of contain her in that vulnerability so that it does ease after a while. But then I don't think a lot of women are taught how to hold men in that space. And that in itself can be something that's quite daunting, because you see a woman going, oh shit, you know, what do I do with this? It's you know, do I say, oh, it's okay, and then it sort of decharges the situation, rather than actually keeping that sexual tension there, and then eventually it's going to come back.
Yes.
So it's like, I know I'm jumping the gun to the exercises, but I think something that really does help with something like this is going in soft and exiting hard. That's always a great way of sort of realigning or recalibrating our anxieties about our soft penis. Because, you know, okay, if there's a lot of lubrication, if you're both, you know, aroused and it's nicely charged, go in soft, you know. Missionary position, perfect. As you enter, feel the sensation, start breathing through that. That's when it's the connection with the PT muscles, and I'll explain about it. I'm sure you've also got breathing exercises for this too. But once he removes and he's hard, he's automatically changed his brain chemistry. He thinks about it completely differently.
Yes, I really, really like that. Go in soft, exit hard. When actually we've all been conditioned, go in hard, stay hard, stay hard, stay hard, stay hard. Don't come too quickly, and then exit soft. So my kind of thinking is, how can women respond in a way that keeps that charge there, that keeps orienting the energy towards pleasure, rather than it being a whole big thing, which is okay as well. But if women that are listening want to support, or, you know, people in general that are listening want to support their male partner, how do they respond in a way that feels good to both?
Maybe the question I would ask to the lady listeners is that, have they ever suckled the penis before? I don't mean suck. I mean quite literally rest her head in his lap and suck at his penis until he sort of equilibrates and gets back to a nice state where he's not anxious anymore.
Yes. So that feels, you know, when I like think of that, that feels like a really loving, connecting, intimate, sexy, sensual thing that both of them can share. So I'm imagining, okay, the man's penis has gone soft. They move into that kind of experience to share with each other. Maybe she doesn't even have to say anything. Maybe he doesn't even have to say anything. It's just like, oh yeah, it's gone soft. That happens. That's normal. So both of them are adopting or taking on that kind of, this is normal. And it feels very sexy to then move into that kind of sexual experience, sexual act.
I guess in my head, I try and sort of step out of the linear, because, you know, what do? We go head on, we try and kiss head on, we try and penetrate head on. Everything is sort of in that sort of space. Whereas, let's say, for instance, the lady in question does take charge, and, you know, she rests his back against the headboard, and she comes from the side and is staring up at him and does engage like that. He can also tap into a softer side of himself, and as you say, that loving side of him, where he is caressing her, he is looking at her, he's really seeing the person that's in front of him, and that in itself sort of starts changing the sort of sexual tension and the energy that's in the space as well.
Yes, it feels like a really fun kind of energetics to play with. The woman or the partner sort of taking charge, not in a way that it's pressuring the woman either, but in a way of like, I've got this, we've got this.
Yeah, stepping into her queen for a bit, and just
we're gonna keep enjoying this experience with each other. So that I really appreciate that.
And I also think for women to spend time naturally and enthusiastically with soft cocks. Like, soft cocks are so much fun. Like, erect cocks are great, and soft cocks are just also great. You can do such different things with your hands and your tongue and your mouth with a soft cock to what you can do with a hard cock. And like, just spend time so you demystify it, and you just become really good friends. Like, because I think there is a lot of fear around male loss of erection in women. So the more we can play with his softness and enjoy that side of him, and I don't know, make it a game, see how long, how long can you stay soft, darling, while I'm playing, it's just like, make it fun, like bring fun back into it and make it all just fun and exploration and curiosity and playfulness. Those are kind of keywords, aren't they, from our course? Curiosity, playfulness.
Yes.
Just have fun.
I love that. I think also, just to add on there, it's the familiarity of a man with his penis, much like a woman with her vagina. It's yours, so you take a little bit of a different kind of ownership. If you are in a relationship, it's also really magical to see your partner taking ownership of you as well, and going, actually, you know what, let's shower together. Let me feel and be in contact as much as you are in contact with your penis. Let me be the same with you. And that in itself, I think, is also going to challenge the sort of the arousal reflexes of the man in question too. Where there is, my hands aren't the only thing that are touching me all the time. There's a familiarity with my partner, and she knows exactly what to do in that kind of moment as well.
Yes. And what you were saying, Camilla, around having fun, having, the challenge, that really will support the couple to rewire, to associate positive experiences with the man's soft penis. And also, a penis has all these nerve endings, and it can feel pleasure whether soft or hard. And there's this thing where I think, see what you both say, but we've got this really hardwired strong association that only a hard penis is going to experience pleasure. So it's got to get hard so that the woman enjoys it, the man enjoys it, so that everyone's enjoying it. So there's this really, it feels like a total, like, flip the scripts, shift away from that kind of thinking that that a man can feel pleasure, and so can a woman. A woman, like you said, Camilla, can really enjoy playing with the different feelings and sensations in her mouth, with her hands, when it's soft.
But even against the clitoris is a different sensation altogether as well. But I think it's something that also kind of makes me think about in what you just said there, Ramiz, is that it's also for men who actually really do have erectile dysfunction, and there still is sensitivity there still is feeling there still are all of these different things. So it doesn't mean that you get to this particular point in your life, and let's say you really do have the problem, you can still enjoy an active sex life and really be in your masculine self and feel like a man. You don't have to be completely castrated.
You so can. I have watched men develop the most incredible sex lives with full-blown erectile dysfunction following something like cancer treatment. So it's like, this is not a psychological problem. It's probably not going to be something you work through. This is a significant change in your body's physiology, and you're alive. Like, huge celebration of thank you body for getting me through this, for me being alive, and I'm going to make the most of every single moment of my life. And my penis is soft, and I'm still going to enjoy my life, and I'm still going to have amazing orgasmic fun, and I'm still going to watch my woman, and we're still going to develop our relationship deeper and deeper and have more and more pleasure, and we're going to find different ways to do it.
Yes, and it kind of brings me to the point, which is that some pornography and movies has brainwashed all of us into thinking that the most amount of pleasure and orgasm comes through penis and vagina penetrative sex.
I'd be bold and say most pornography.
Most pornography, yeah. I kind of say some because I don't want to ever demonize.
Is there any that doesn't?
Porn. But it's true, most porn.
Yeah. And we're not just talking, as you mentioned earlier, films, like TV and films, you never see a couple having sex that isn't penetrative.
So true. It's so true. So, and there is lots, as Camilla shared earlier, there is so much that couples can be sharing. And what happens is, when we're focusing on that being the main act, the main kind of meal, we're missing out everything else that actually really bring huge amounts of pleasure to both the man and the woman, or both partners. So it's really to make a point about that it doesn't have to be penis-centric. It doesn't have to be focused on that. There is so much more. And the other point I kind of wanted to bring up is that we use this term foreplay, and that basically is insinuating we're doing that so we can get to the final act. So it devalues and kind of negates this beautiful stuff that's happening here, because we're doing it all to get to here. And there is a therapist I follow on Instagram, and I loved the phrase she called for. I kind of like not using the word foreplay for that reason, and she called it erotic bridges.
Erotic
bridges.
Oh.
So how can, you know, couples form and bridge together in that erotic space? And then, you know, one day I tried to come up with a new term and I called it fun play.
I'm sure you said outer play too.
I've heard someone else use that before.
Okay.
That term. So it's just to say, if either of you want to speak to that, how couples can shift away from, and then we'll move on to, we can kind of move into now like ways that couples can build those erotic bridges and some kind of tools we can kind of start to, you know, come to a close with this live. Some ways that men and their partners and their female partners can begin to form these erotic bridges.
I love that term.
It's great, isn't it?
I do like it as well. I guess in my mind it's once again re-scripting myself and thinking every moment is a potential for an eroticized experience.
Ooh.
And every moment for me is a moment of some form of seduction. So I think this kind of speaks twofold to a lot of things that men fail to do a lot of the time, because I get, because women are the ones that are penetrated most of the time. There's an expectancy that sort of directiveness is going to come from the man in question. He's going to be the one that's going to be eroticizing, say, hey, let's go down that path. So I'd like to challenge men on this one and go, okay, look at your relationships and see if you can eroticize it all the time. What comes out, but you know, with sincerity, with your authenticity that is you. How different does that sort of shape the sexual lay of the land that you actually create with your partner?
Yes, bringing in that seductive, erotic energy. So, because you wrote about this just recently on your Instagram. So this really is, you know, what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Massimo, is playing with the energy. Playing with the energy. What's her name? It's from this book, Mind the Gap. She calls it sexual currency, where you're bringing it back to flirting, you know, kind of touching them on the shoulder at the dishes, maybe whispering something in their ear. Thank you for doing the washing up. You know, those kind of little.
Usually I rub myself up behind her and kind of, you know, it's making your presence known. I think.
Yes. Yes.
Making her vagina tingle. No, it's pulsing. It's the pulsating vagina. Naomi Wolf writes about how our vaginas pulsate.
Yes.
For any of this, any eroticism, any seduction. And I'm guessing, Massimo, that men have an equivalent to a pulsating vagina. You'll have a tingling cock or something.
Well, the thing is that it's in our prostate, but the problem is that we don't connect with our prostate. So it's like one of the exercises when we do come to it is exactly that. It's a different kind of consciousness with your breathing, because when you think about it, right, when you breathe in, you're tensing your prostate, whereas actually it should be the other way around. So when you're breathing out, it's the tensing, and when you're breathing in, it's the relaxing.
How do you relax your prostate?
Well, when you breathe in, you're not really doing anything with the prostate. It just sort of just settles.
I don't think I have a prostate, do I? Is this why I can't feel my prostate?
Well, think about it like your PC muscles as an example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's the same
Okay.
thing. So when
Okay.
you breathe in, you're sort of breathing in diaphragmatic, thoracic, ventricular, and you're sort of relaxing the body into that. Whereas when you're breathing out, it's that squeezing or the tension in the glutes.
Okay.
And
And
so,
that
go on.
and that kind of exercise will not only strengthen your pelvic floor muscles, but also your relationship with your prostate as well, which I don't think many men are conscious of. We're only conscious when there's pain. Usually that's when we sort of draw our attention to other parts of the body.
And then they're doing this, they're strengthening their relationship to their prostate because it supports them.
Well, not only is it going to be a better ejaculatory response, it's also going to increase blood flow. And fundamentally it's going to help with getting an erection as well. And I think a lot of the time when we're looking at loss of erection, it's largely based on a holding of the breath. And the same thing can be applied to women in your orgasm, right? So if you're holding your breath, it's almost becoming a forcefulness behind the orgasm rather than a complete flow and relaxation of the orgasm.
Yes. Thank you, Massimo. That feels like a really helpful thing that people can, listening to this, the men listening to this can start to like have a practice and have a try.
Well, I'm busy practicing right now, so
I was practicing.
So go on, Camilla.
Prostate. So my thing is always massage. My thing is always touch. So how can women support men? How can men support themselves? Massage, massage, massage. I mean,
yes,
women can give the prostate the most amazing massage on the outside through his perineum.
Yeah.
And of course, she can go a step further and she become really skilled at giving him an internal prostate massage by giving him anal massage. I mean, how do you grow your sex life? You start exploring all these avenues. You start opening the doors and going, what happens if? But yeah, I mean, prostate massage.
It's
very exciting to give.
I guess that you see what's amazing is hearing a woman say something like that, and that in itself is something that men can relax into. Whereas I think a lot of men have this fear of penetration, and it's like, well, what does that mean? What are the connotations attached to it? What's the script that's attached X, Y, and Z? Whereas, as a starting point, like you said, it's don't just focus on the penis. There's so many other parts. It's connected all together. See what sensations are aroused in him, and I think he also needs to be, or at least learn to be a little bit more open in terms of where that goes.
Yes, and I recently did a masterclass series, and one of the teachers in the masterclass shared full body orgasmic touch for men. And again, what we've seen in most porn and the movies is just touching the penis. Maybe the woman gets some touch around her body, the neck, the breasts, the chest, the nipples for the woman. I don't know if we see, or maybe we do see in some of the movies, but we don't see this. We don't know that you can also touch a man all over his body and focus on other parts. And that can really support him. This comes back to the building the erotic bridges, can really support him to relax. If we're thinking about, you've been working during the week, how can you expect yourself to suddenly, a man, woman, a person, how can you suddenly expect yourself to just relax, turn on the arousal, and unless you get aroused by stress, just be able to kind of come out of your head, your thinking mind that's been strategizing all week, and then come into your body and soften and relax into your body. So all over touch could be a really powerful thing. Massage for both men and women to share and exchange.
I mean, it's an interesting point that you're making about the stress, coming home stressed. And if you're looking at statistically, men who are very, very stressed will turn to masturbation rather than actually having intercourse.
Yes.
So, you've also got a really good opportunity there to connect with your partner being a woman and going, hey, hold on a second, let me give you the hand job. Let me do the masturbation for you.
Yes.
And hey, while you're busy and you're hard, let me jump on and enjoy myself as well. So I think there's also a real stigma attached to that as well, that, men's masturbation is a solitary experience. It's not out in the open. And usually when we're going through quite a stressed phase, even in masturbation, we recognize that, hey, hold on a second, I'm stressed, my erection isn't as hard as it usually is, and we kind of take the stance of forcing ourselves through that because we want to get the end result of that sort of little bit of gratification, decompress the stress a little bit. But if we can sort of bring that out into the open and have our partner do that for us, why not?
Yes.
It's just that additional benefit.
And something for them both to share and to communicate, talk about it, be aware. Yeah, I'm going through a stressful period, and asking your partner, would you, I really feel this need, like I kind of want to be with myself in this way. Would you like to share it with me? So that's such a great suggestion. So before we move on to, I'm just aware of time. Thank you both so much. Before we move on to sharing a few kind of tips or tools that people can take away, we've already started with Massimo sharing about the kind of prostate breathing. I just want to check the Facebook to see if we have any comments. I'm just checking on my phone. Okay, I can't actually, I'm guessing we might not, because this is a very sensitive topic, not that I can see. So let's move into, you know, 3 things. If we should both, all of us, just share one thing each that will, you know, a man can go and try after watching this live. So I can begin with the idea of relaxation. So kind of continuing on from the idea of massage, really trying something that will support your body as a man to relax, whether that's massage, whether that's having a bath before, whether that's having like 5 minutes of doing some kind of audio meditation from these apps, or, you know, doing some stretching, going out for a walk, being out in nature. And, you know, Massimo, I think you actually talked about this some kind of before in another thing we did, having some kind of transition and preparing your mind and body, so that, yeah, you did talk about it, Massimo, so that you're not coming into it in a state of stress, which puts you in this mind state where it's going to be difficult potentially for you to enjoy pleasure and be aroused. So I would really say relaxation, anything that you can do to support you to relax, which actually might sound a bit counterintuitive to relax, because
it's already relaxed.
Pardon?
Because it's already relaxed.
Yes, exactly.
Your sleeping giant is just having a nap.
Exactly. So it would feel a bit counterintuitive. You might feel like you want to get revved up so that it, you know, you have a hard erection. But actually, the more you can relax, the more you allow time and space and breath and just kind of just letting it be its beautiful self, then the more chance you have of potentially having arousal. Not that that's the goal. So that's kind of what I would suggest, and that's one tip or tool, is to anything you can do to support yourself to relax. Camilla and Massimo, anything you want to share? We've kind of been
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, sorry?
We've kind of already been sharing something throughout this live.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be, we've talked a lot about how to familiarize and take away the stigma and grow comfort both for the man and the woman around the soft cock. And I think that what I would then add to it is when the penis doesn't get hard during sex, yes, enjoy it and take your attention off it. Just refocus the energy onto other means of pleasure. Like the more you, if you, so I've just kind of witnessed people being kind of frantically trying to get an erection again. This kind of, you know, and it's kind of getting softer and softer and softer, and they're getting more and more frantic, and you're just like, oh my God, this is just hideous. Just leave the alone. And step into that place of my cock's soft and I'm still amazing.
And
let come into that place of lovemaking and sex and sexual energy and togetherness and eroticism and seduction, and just be together as two whole bodies. Like, we're not just a vagina and a cock, we are so much more, and enjoy all of it. Just enjoy all of it. And whether that's a prostate massage and whether that's a foot rub, we didn't talk about feet, but that the K spot on the sole of the foot, that stimulates blood flow. So, you know, don't ignore feet. Like, everyone has this thing about, oh, you love feet, Camilla, you've got some kind of foot fetish. No, they're just super sensitive parts of the body that love to be touched, so touch them. Like, don't ignore your feet. But yeah, just enjoy the body and just allow sex to be something different, unless you're desperately trying to make a baby. An erection really doesn't matter.
So two whole bodies, and I kind of want to demonstrate it. So you've got two whole bodies together, not a penis and
two little part. Yeah, you've got the whole smorgasbord.
You've got a whole body to play with, and so I love that. So refocus. Don't bring
onto the rest of the body. Yeah. He's got a whole body. You've got a whole body. Like, you've got these two amazing bodies. Just enjoy every single, you know, just, you could spend ages just pleasuring fingers, for goodness sake. Like, why don't we spend as much time sucking each other's fingers as we do sucking a cock? You know, fingers and toes. Like,
but even kissing, it's like, you know, there's always, if you're thinking about kissing, it's always about the sort of reciprocal, I kiss you, you kiss me back kind of situation. But have you actually ever allowed someone just to kiss you, not to reciprocate in any way, but just be there present with that person, drawing all of their attention, focusing their attention just on your lips alone, and enjoy it.
Which can just
Massimo, that is my #1 sexual experience of all time. Lying there, my body kissed all over. That is my absolute top draw experience.
If it's about speaking about masculinity for me is really the adoration of the feminine. if you want to just really look at it on a very, very simple way. And that, for me, in my head, is like, okay, if it's not working, ignore your partner's body from head to toe, and inevitably there's going to be some kind of enjoyment. If she's not enjoying it, you're enjoying it. She's going to see your enjoyment, she's going to start enjoying it, and it's just sort of this to and fro. But I think the thing that I would probably say is that men need to learn how to resensitize themselves. And you know, it's like, if you're talking about masturbating your balls as an example, right? We don't spend enough time in actually connecting with the different sensations that we experience everywhere else. Not only is that, and this is the amazing thing, because it's like, if you look at underwear as an example, underwear is something that's actually causing less blood flow. If we're coming from, let's say, for instance, the Scots and Irish and things like that, wearing kilts and that kind of, we had dangling little fellas all day long, and the danglingness of it is actually churning things up. That's what's promoting the blood flow. So it's you know, another technique that's really good is shaking. It's actually learning to detach the balls from the rest of the body. And if you're just looking at it from a temperature base, you know, your testicles are always a couple of degrees lower temperature than the rest of the body. So there's so many different things that we have to attune to being men that I think we've just forgotten. So for me, it's the resensitization and reconnecting with that.
Yeah, thank you, Massimo. So just to kind of summarize some of the things that we have shared in this live that you can go away and start to try. There's relaxation, finding different ways to relax your body before entering into an intimate experience. And then there's Camilla's, there's two bodies and refocusing your attention, and Massimo's kind of tip of starting that process of resensitizing your penis. And so, you know, this we've just touched on this. This really was you know, a conversation to address the myths that we are all dealing with, to name them, to bring them out in the light so that we can reduce the shame, and to kind of normalize, like, talking about this, so that people can start talking, and couples can start having these conversations. So the invitation is, if you've watched this live is a wonderful thing that you can then suggest to your partner, to a friend. Hey, you know, do you want to watch this together, or you might want to check this out, to begin that conversation as a way of kind of hearing other people talk about it first, which just feels a little bit easier, and then it can start a conversation. It can inspire a conversation. So thank you so much for your time, Camilla and Massimo. Really, really appreciate. I've really enjoyed this.
Welcome. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Really, really enjoyed it. And if people want to find you and they want to get some more support, where is the best place to find you? Camilla, I think it's Facebook for you, isn't
Facebook
it?
for me. Yeah, Facebook.
And Massimo, where's the best place?
For me, it's just easy, just to the website. It's massimo.love. Very
Yes.
simple.
Great. And then likewise, you know, if you want to have any conversations with me, Instagram and Facebook. So thank you very much for joining in with us live and joining in this conversation, for being a part of it. And thank you again, Camilla and Massimo.
Thank you, Emma.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.